Welcome to the second part of the chapter entitled Phonological Rules. We are going to see more examples of rules in English. This is another one here. Here we have got stops. This is a stop. G. This is a stop with B. Another one B. And we have got another one D. All these stops are voice stops. They are found between two voiced sounds. Here we have got G between two vowels. Here we have got B between a vowel and L voiced. Here we have got between two vowels, and here we have got between two vowels. In this phonetic environment, the stops which are voiced are realized as being fully voiced here, because we begin voicing earlier before their production while producing the vowel here, and voicing goes on throughout. Because we are preparing for the production of the next vowel after tracing here. Ago. G is fully voiced here. Same thing for B. Same thing for D in here. So in this case they are fully voiced here when they are surrounded by two voiced sounds, or by two vowels in here. Now another rule. Final stops are unexploded when the next word begins with a nasal. For example, take a cab now. This is the stop here, and this is the nasal following it here. Now in this case, as we saw earlier in the chapter talking about the life of stops, B is unreleased here. We don't release the air through the mouth, but we release through the nose. So here we can talk about nasal release, if you like. Cab now. Instead of releasing the air which has been held within the oral cavity for the production of B through the mouth, we're going to release it through the nose, the nasal cavity. Cab now. So B here is nasally released. This rule also applies when the next word begins with a stop. We can talk about unexploded, stops. In this context, when a stop is followed by another, a stop here. For example, here we have got the cat pushed. So the final sound is T. It's the voices stop T. And pushed begins, with, if you like, the voices stop, which is P. So in this context, when we have got a stop followed by another stop in here, the first one is unexploded. The air does not go through the mouth. It does not take the form of explosion here. So this is the symbol for it. And this is another symbol for it. Both of them mean the same thing here. Now the same phenomenon occurs within a word such as apt. We don't say apt. We don't release the air for P and then we go on to T, but we say apt. So which means this one is unreleased because it is followed by another voiceless stop in here. Same thing in white teeth. We don't say white teeth, we say white teeth. Okay, so the air here, for this here, is still kept in within the oral cavity. So this first one is unreleased. Now in the case of Italian, the Italian language here, people always explode stops at the end. Okay, and Italian explodes the final stop consonants as he would in his language, because in his language he's always going to explode the stops at the end. So instead of saying a big day, the G in English normally is not going to be exploded, but in Italian they are going to add a syllable to explode the air for it here. It's a bigger day. Here Italians are going to add an extra syllable here. Now in English, T can have as allophone the glottal stop, when followed by a syllabic N, as in beaten. So of course you have got a choice. We can say beaten or some native speakers would prefer to pronounce it as bn, kitten or kitten, fatten, fatten, flatten, flatten here. So it seems in English there is this kind of rule. When we have got t followed by a syllabic n, this t tends to be realized as a glottal stop. Now in hidden, d and n are homorganic, which means they have got the same place of articulation. The air pressure built behind the stop closure is released through the nose by the lowering of the velum. So we say dn, dn. So the air which is held for the production of d in the oral cavity, it goes through the nose. So in fact here d is a nasal release. We can call it nasal plosion. Okay, this is also found in words like sadden, leaden, sudden, okay, and so on and so forth here. We can talk about nasal release. So this is one of the realizations of these stops here, nasal release here. Now, in London Cockney has a glottal stop between vowels. For example here, we can say butter or butter. According to speakers of this accent here, they say butter instead of saying fatter, which also exists. We can also, some native speakers would prefer to pronounce it as fatter. Also, many speakers have a glottal stop just before final voiceless stops in words such as rap. P here is the last, voiceless, like stop at the end of this word. It seems that it is accompanied by a glottal stop in its realization, in its pronunciation. Rap. Same thing. Rat, rat, rack here. So this phenomenon is called glottal stop accompaniment. Now this rule is found in examples where the stop is followed by a consonant in general. For example, wept. So here we have got the stop, which is p. It is followed by consonant. Here we have got k followed by consonant shocked. Here we have ate, t followed by th here. It seems there is a general rule in English here. This phoneme p is realized as a sequence of first glottal stop followed by p in the context where this is its place followed by a consonant. So we have got some more rules, phonological rules to note in English here. Now we have got a more general rule here. The rule that we talked about, it's not just about p, but it's about a class of sounds. So this is the more general rule. Plus stop, which means stop sounds, they are realized as glottal stop plus stop, the same sound, in the context where this stop is found before a consonant. So this rule is too general. It should be restricted normally, because we are not talking about voiced stops. So we have to change it into it's a stop which is minus voice. A voiceless stop is being realized as a glottal stop first plus the same sound, the stop which is voiceless, in which context? In the context where this is its place, followed by a consonant here. Another rule: when an alveolar stop occurs before a homorganic lateral, as in little, saddle, the air pressure of the stop is released by lowering the size of the tongue, and the effect is called lateral plosion. This is something that we explained earlier when we talked about stops in general. So this, for example, t is laterally released. This is the realization. We have got a small L here. In which context? Here, when it is followed by plus lateral sound. Now we can have, the same rule in terms of a general one, in terms of, if you like features, distinctive features. An alveolar sound, which is a stop here, can be realized as plus lateral release in the context where it is followed by plus lateral sound, L here. Now we can talk about some rules, at the level of place of articulation, changes of place of articulation. The overlapping of adjacent articulations T and D are alveolar sounds, okay? They are pronounced with tongue contact on the teeth to become T and D. Notice this diacritic below T and this diacritic below D. It shows that they are dentalized. Of course, we know that T and D are alveolar sounds, but in some contexts they are produced with what we call dentalization, especially when they occur before dental fricatives, as in eighth here. Notice the stop in here, T, is followed by a dental sound, or what we call an interdental sound, th. This fact is going to affect the production of T. It will make of it a dentalized sound. Same thing here, with it here. So this th will make of the a dentalized sound. We have also tenth. Look at 10, tenth. The N is followed by th. Same thing in here. Now the rule. T, the phoneme, is realized as the allophone, or the realization, the dentalized sound. Some people just call it dental T. In which context? When it is here before a dental, or what we call interdental sound. But it's not just about T, it's also about D and N. So we need a more general rule. We can say an alveolar sound becomes plus dental in the context where it is found before a plus dental sound here. Another, if you like, change of place of articulation. Let's talk about K and G. That we know, both of them are velar sounds. Let's talk about them in ki and gis. They are different from ko and gos. The allophones occur because of the influence of the following vowel: fronted as opposed to retracted. We have already mentioned this fact. Okay, so here K in ki, G in gis, they are not a pure back vowels. They are fronted because they are followed by E, which is a front vowel, as opposed to K in here, ko, goes. Both of them are followed by back vowels here. So this K and G in here, are retracted. Our tongue goes a little bit backwards, okay, more than the velar region. Okay, so as I said, the allophones occur because of the influence of the following vowel. So here we can talk about fronted in here, and we have got retracted realizations as in here. Now lip rounding is imposed on K in ku. Slightly less lip rounding if K and U are separated by L, as in clu. So look, phonemically, this is clu. We have just the phonemes K, L and U. But phonetically, This k, of course, since it is a voiceless stop, it should be aspirated, this small h here. Now, this fact that the voiceless stop is aspirated, it's going to influence the L, which is voiced here. This L should be devoiced, so we should have a small circle, on top of it here. And this L also is what we call labialized, because it is followed by a rounded vowel, O. Okay, so here we have got different rules here. Now let's talk about the first rule. Plus stop plus vela, k and g, they become plus front. They are fronted. In which context? When they are followed by a vowel which is front, plus front vowel here. Now what about the word tune? Cure. Here we can talk about palatalization. Look at this t. T normally is an alveolar sound. Here it is followed by ye. Ye, from the point of view of place of articulation, is a palatal sound. Okay, t and ye. So in the case where t is followed by ye, as in here, this t tends to be palatalized. It becomes more like the ye which follows it. So it's not a pure alveolar sound, it is a palatalized alveolar sound. Palatalization is shown by this small ye below t here. So t, the alveolar sound, is realized as this t here, palatalized one, in which context? When this is its place, when it is followed by a palatal glide, e here. Here we have got k followed by ye, cure. This k here is palatalized. Of course, we know k is a velar sound. So since it is followed by palatal sound here, this k is going to be palatalized. So, the tongue will move a little bit forward between the region of the velar, or the soft palate, and the hard palate here. So this k will be palatalized. Same thing in here. Consider also the word pure. How do we produce p in pure? It's something for you. Just work it out. Relying on what we have just said in here. Now, the general rule. At the level of voice, sounds do change, of course. I leave you to work out the word pure and to come up with a general rule here. Because you have got k, you have got t, you have got p. So, what's the general rule you suggest here? Okay. Now, let's go back to this point here. We are going to talk about what happens as changes at the level of voice here. So, like stops, fricatives get partially devoiced in the final position or when followed by a voiceless sound. Remember what we said about voiceless stops. At the end, they get devoiced. Okay, same thing here for fricatives. Like stops, fricatives get partially devoiced in the final position or when followed by a voiceless sound. For example here, prove, breathe, choose. Z, the fricative, the fricative here, the fricative here. Even here, prove 2 times 2 is 4. Prove 2. So the is followed by voiceless sound t. So here the is final, here the is final, z is final. But here the is followed by voiceless sound. And even here, times 2. Proof 2 times 2 is 4. Try to improve. Try to improve. The at the end here. The in both examples is not fully voiced, unlike try to improve it. Okay? Here, the is between vowels. Prove it here. So here, the is fully voiced because it is followed by a vowel here. But the here, try to improve alone, okay, it's not fully voiced here. So it's not fully voiced as opposed to try to improve it here. We have got the vowel before, vowel at the end. So here it's going to be fully voiced here. So we notice that same phenomena that we talked about in connection to stops are also valid for fricatives here. Okay, and we're going to see some rules later on. So fricatives and stops share many facts. So this is going to lead us to the idea of natural classes. Here we have got a bigger natural class, a larger group of sounds, which includes not just stops, fricatives and stops also. So both of them, since they constitute one general class, they share many facts. Stops and fricatives influence vowel length in similar ways. Remember what we said about the vowel which precedes the stop. If the stop is voiceless, the vowel is short. If the stop is voiced, the vowel is longer. So look here, vowels before voiceless stops or fricatives are shorter than before voiced stops or fricatives. So the rule that we talked about in connection to stops also applies to fricatives here. That's why, as I said, we can talk about another general class, including both fricatives and stops. Now, final voiceless stops and fricatives are longer than final voiced stops and fricatives. Remember the first rule that we said. Okay, so here we include in it not just stops but even fricatives. Number 3, the final voiced stops and fricatives are not actually voiced throughout the articulation unless the next sound is also voiced. We have also explained this here. So look, the fact that we are grouping both stops and fricatives together under the same general class because they undergo the same rules. Rule number 1, rule number 2, rule number 3 here. So both stops and fricatives involve an obstruction of the air stream which allows them to act similarly in phonological rules. Both fricatives and stops are referred to as a natural class of sounds called obstruents. I need you to if you like, just remember this feature obstruents because we talked about it during the lecture which was entitled distinctive features. So we have got b, t, d, k, g, f, these ones here are all of them plus obstruents. All other English sounds are minus obstruents. Now nasals, another natural class. There is a slight tendency for initial nasals to be shorter than final ones. This is another rule. Look, none. We have got two nasal sounds here, one in the initial and one in the final position here. So there is a slight tendency for initial nasals to be shorter than final ones. Nasals together with R and L can be syllabic. when they occur at the end of words. Sadden, this one is syllabic. Table, l is syllabic. So it seems that they share the same rule, because normally they have got a similar, feature, phonetic feature together. N, this is another sound, the velar nasal, can never begin an English word. Singing, it cannot be syllabic except in bacon. This is the only exception in English where n seems to be syllabic. So what is n normally? How can we explain this, this sound here? One view sees n as a sequence of n and g. Consequently, in sing, here this word would be phonemically sing. There is a rule saying that n has the allophone n whenever it occurs before g. This is one view. Okay? Thus, sing is turned into sing. Another rule here. This rule allows for the dropping of g whenever it occurs after n at the end of either a word or a stem, followed by a suffix such as er or ing, as in singing here. When we have got this g, following n, in words like this one here, we tend to omit this g. We say singing here. We don't say sing in, no, singing here. So, just repeat this one and just, it's easy. Another rule here allows for the dropping of g whenever it occurs after n at the end of either a word or a stem, followed by a suffix such as er or ing, as singing here. Now we can talk about devoicing of approximants. These are approximants. U, L. These are called approximants. They have got something in common, a phonetic feature in common, and they can get devoiced. The fact that they form one group of sounds, one natural class. Okay. It allows us to talk about them in connection to the same rule. Which rule? Devoicing. Devoicing of approximants. In words like pry, try, cry. Twin, quill, play, clay. So in these words, these sounds tend to be devoiced, partially voiceless. Now, the approximants are largely voiceless when they follow one of the voiceless stops. This is the rule here. Now, ye can occur in similar clusters, but usually with the restriction that the phoneme vowel is u, as in pew, q, tune, dune. Now, the two words which and which can be contrasted by pronouncing h before u in the first word here. Just to make them a little bit different, there is a tendency to pronounce this here which, and this one is pronounced as which. Okay, so the two words which and which can be contrasted by pronouncing h before w in the first word here. Therefore, the symbol, this symbol, is used to represent this voiceless approximant. This one in here, which, but this one is which here. So these are, things that can be, taken into account just to show you the pronunciation of different sounds in English here. Now, as a last, slide here, these are here some words just for you to to have some more practice. Just consider these examples and try to see what phonological rules you can identify in them. For example, destitute, institute, clue, bead as opposed to beat, leave as opposed to leave, the word strict, the word background. What allophones can you identify here corresponding to what phonemes and according to what phonological rules in English here? So these are things that we can discuss later on, but I need you just work your mind a little bit. Just work on them here. And that's all. Next time we are going to have another lecture concerning the syllable, and we are going to begin another lecture concerning morphology and other things.